Hi, folks. Welcome back to another bonus episode of Science Fiction Book Club. My name's Abu. As always,
Obssa.
I'm here with Obssa. And Obssa, we're back
Yes,
again
we are.
to talk about Murderbot.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
doing this weekly. Every Friday for the entirety of Murderbot Season 1. We're going to be back to talk about the new episode. Today's episode 4.
Yeah.
Just came out today. And we're here to talk about it.
Yeah.
So let's get in. Quick spoiler warning before we dive in. We're assuming that you have watched Murderbot episodes 1 through 4. Also, I will say the first two books, which we have covered on the podcast, are also fair game.
Yeah.
So we might, do some book comparisons and
Yeah.
talk about book events. Okay. With that out of the way, let me read a quick summary. I also went analog. Look at this. I wrote
Nice.
on a notebook
Yeah.
in pen.
Very good.
Because my sister is borrowing my iPad. It's a whole thing.
Ah, funny.
So I took notes on, it was weird. It was quaint.
Yeah. I don't know that I own any more pens that aren't specifically for an iPad.
That aren't for an iPad, right? Okay, so let me read off of this. It's called Papyrus.
Yeah, that's right.
Murderbot episode 4, a fairly simplistic episode.
Yep.
The trend so far in this show seems to be not a lot happens, but it's kind of a fun ride along the way, sitcom style. In episode 4, basically Murderbot has been captured by the evil Murderbot, as we saw in the end of episode 3.
The evil sec unit.
The evil sec unit, thank you. The evil sec unit from episode 3. Mensa and the others are panicking because Murderbot is no longer responding. It's incapacitated.
Right.
The evil sec unit installs a combat module. They
Right.
fight a little bit, but the sec unit is able to install this combat module.
Yeah.
Mensa comes to the rescue.
Epic.
Epic.
Epic
Really
scene.
good,
I
actually.
really liked
I
that.
loved
Yeah,
that
yeah,
moment. Mensa comes to the rescue, murks
Right.
the sec unit, partially because it gets back
Right.
up and Terminator style kind
Right.
of follows them down the hallway,
Totally.
shooting at them. Mensa and Murderbot are able to escape the facility.
Right.
Meanwhile, Rati and the rest of the gang
Yeah.
are panicking about what to do.
Totally.
How do we help?
Yeah.
Rati grabs a gun for which he is not trained.
No. Pointing the
and
wrong way.
Pointing the
obviously.
wrong way.
Yeah.
Doesn't know how to dial in the energy
Safety,
levels.
all that stuff.
Safety's
Yeah.
still off or on. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
Rati runs in there to try and save the day, very
Yeah.
macho. And Mensa and Murderbot come out. A little fight ensues.
Yeah.
Rati hits himself in the head with his own gun. Again, not
Classic
trained for
stage.
it.
Yeah.
Classic. But actually, it's Pinley and Arata who save the day. They
Right.
bring the ship down and they crush the sec unit.
That's right.
And then the episode ends on a fun cliffhanger because the
Right.
combat module has finished installing
Right.
and Murderbot is programmed to kill its employers by this combat module. And instead it says, you need to kill me.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm going to murder all of you in 3, 2. And instead they're like, no, we can save you. We'll help you. Murderbot takes things into its own hands and shoots itself.
That's right.
And that's where we end episode 4.
Yeah.
What did you think of this one?
Well, honestly, I think it's picked up in such an excellent way. This the cliffhanger at the end, obviously we recognized from the book, and to see it kind of actually depicted, and also how the Prezox crew, even at this moment, when it's very clear, it's warning them, Murderbot's like, you really gotta let me go, because otherwise I will kill you.
Yeah.
And still they kind of persist in their kumbaya style, high ethics, morality. And I'm also, I have to say, like, the crew has grown on me. Even in this episode,
I agree.
I'm starting to find that they're still a little silly, but the stakes have risen a little bit more, and they're kind of rising to the intensity of their moment. Like,
yes,
you know what I mean? Like, I think they're like treating the situation with some of the gravity required. Obviously, there's still these kind of humorous moments with Rati and the others, but all in all, I really enjoy this episode.
I'm in the same boat. I, of course, in the first 3 episodes was a little more critical. I'm beginning to warm up.
Yeah.
I think by episode 4, we're finally hitting our stride in this show.
Right.
I think I'm also calibrating my expectations now going in and watching these.
Right.
Because I know what I'm getting. I'm like, oh, okay, this is kind of like a goofball sitcom comedy show, and less like a more serious or more sci-fi show, And so going in, I'm just kind of prepared for that more.
Yeah.
I agree the crew is starting to grow on me a little bit by bit. Certainly Mensa, I've already been a fan. I've voiced that before. But I think honestly, Rati, Pinley, Arata, we're kind of cute in this episode, and I liked their interactions.
Totally.
I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I'm glad there are stakes. You know,
Right.
I think the first 3 episodes really had to establish where we are, who we are, what's happening, and the stakes are now finally kicking in because I think they're personal. Now it's our sec unit is about to shoot us. What do we do?
Right.
Versus like some mysterious, unnamed, unknown corporation has tampered with our maps.
Right.
I think those are different stake levels. This one in episode 4 feels more personal, feels more urgent, and thus is more enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, totally.
I had fun.
Yeah. And I will say, you tell me what you thought about the little bit of world building at the beginning when you see the Fab Center and you see them kind of actually putting together these sec units. And also just I think what I kind of liked about that scene in particular was it felt very plausible that this is like the corporate kind of future that we end up finding ourselves in, where you effectively have indentured servitude. Like these workers are working these 6-year, 12-year, 20-year terms, and you can just kind of see like the pettiness, the boredom, the inefficiency, the fear, the hubris, kind of juxtaposed with these like pretty advanced technologies. And it's humans, and human nature changes so much slower than technology, and this felt very real to me. Like this scene felt kind of quite good, in fact.
I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot. I think it still played up the comedy of Murderbot.
Yeah.
Who thinks it was manufactured to like a very precise degree, and like I'm a killing machine, and there's no way anyone would have tampered with me.
Totally.
And we see the reality of like the system is literally like glitching and restarting in the middle of them trying to code Murderbot's like software.
Yeah.
And I liked it. I like when this show takes an opportunity to expand.
Yes.
Because like the reality is like we're working with a novella, right?
Yes.
It's like 120 page.
Quite slim. Yeah.
It's slim.
Yeah.
It's one quick, simple story.
Totally.
And to turn it into a 10 episode season of television, you simply must expand.
Yes.
You have to take time to do more with it in order to properly create a television show. Totally. And so I like when the show is like, let's do a little bit of world building. Let's explore this beyond the confines of this first novella.
Right.
And frankly, I wish it was doing more of that.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like it didn't happen enough in 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
I would have liked more world building. I would have liked more expansions of the story itself.
Totally.
So I was a big fan.
Yeah.
I also think, what do you think of the comedy? I was quite critical of the comedy in 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
I found myself giggling and laughing quite a bit in 4.
Yeah.
Was the comedy landing for you too?
No, the comedy definitely was landing, and I think even those the moments when Murderbot was kind of losing its sense of place and self when it was trying to escape with Dr. Mensa, and you just had the flashes where it put itself into Sanctuary Moon.
Dude, I can't say enough good things about Sanctuary Moon.
Certainly. I just so enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I think, and to your kind of points in the previous episodes, you do need you need the contrast, and they introduce a lot more contrast in this episode. So the comedy definitely felt like it landed, even more for me. Definitely.
I agree. I definitely found myself laughing quite a bit.
Yeah.
Even at some of the goofier stuff.
Yeah.
I think because of the contrast, right? There are stakes, like people are going to die, people are going to get shot at. And so it is kind of funnier that Rati is out here holding the gun backwards or whatever.
Right.
Like normally that's like a very simple joke that wouldn't land.
Yeah,
it's such a basic bit.
Yeah.
It wouldn't land.
Yeah.
But I think in contrast with like literal gunshots going off,
right,
it's a bit funnier to see him stumbling out there.
No, totally.
And be like overly macho.
Yeah. And I'm thinking also of Murderbot kind of on that medical, like the bed in the med kit. And
singing.
Just starts singing. And there's like, the Black Power Ranger essentially is at a loss. It just kind of stops and is like, well, I don't quite know what to do here. and then immediately kind of fight ensues. So like, again, that contrast is like what makes it so effective,
Yeah, I agree. I will say, I do want to just quote the Sanctuary Moon theme song a
Yeah.
little bit. We hope we'll see you soon on Sanctuary Moon.
Yeah,
So good. Gosh, I'm loving the Sanctuary Moon
I
stuff.
agree.
Super good. So this marks, I'm realizing we're exactly at the 50% way of the way through the book. Because this cliffhanger of
Right.
Murderbot shooting itself
Right.
happens in chapter 4 of an 8-chapter novella,
Right.
if you'll recall.
Yeah.
Because I remember that's exactly
quite a deep cut. But
yeah. Well, I was
nice.
thinking back. We did 2 episodes on the novella, and we split it
good
at
point.
4.
Yes, yeah.
And I remember we ended right at this
True.
cliffhanger.
True.
Okay, so we're 4 episodes in now
Yeah.
of a 10-episode show, and
Yeah.
we're at the 50% point.
Okay, that's pretty good. Yeah, I mean they're mirroring the novel.
They're mirroring. Yeah. I'm even more confident now that we're not going past book 1.
No, we certainly won't.
You know?
Yeah.
Because we're nearly halfway through the season.
Right.
And halfway through the novella.
Yeah.
If they take a couple more opportunities to do more world building sequences and diverge slightly from the novella,
Right.
then I can see us really filling out 10 episodes. Here's my one minor critique. I think I really liked the Silo adaptation for how strongly it leaned into, we're going to expand the world.
Right.
We're using the original text and the original story as our framework,
right.
but we will introduce
Yeah.
entirely new, but also entirely reshaped characters,
Right.
like Common's character, right?
Yes, that's true. Who in the book was a bit of a numbskull,
as we've talked about,
yeah.
But like gets an incredible backstory, gets a family, gets
so rich,
motivation,
so
such a richer character.
Yeah, definitely.
I admired Silo for doing that.
Yeah.
And I was more forgiving of Silo's pace because it did that.
Right.
Silo is a slow burn TV
Yes.
show.
Yeah.
But you are rewarded for the slow burn.
Yes.
Because you are given such rich text.
Totally.
To work with.
Much more character driven.
Much more
personality driven. It's in an excellent way.
Yeah. A really high quality adaptation.
Totally.
I think while I'm enjoying Murderbot and certainly enjoyed episode 4 much more than 1 through 3, I think this is an example of just an okay adaptation, a good adaptation that honestly maybe too religiously sticks to the text because the novella doesn't have enough to flesh out like a dense 10-episode show.
Right.
This is a very light 10-episode show where not a lot happens.
Yeah.
The pace is still kind of slow, but you feel the slowness this time because it's not packed.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like slow because it's moving slowly versus Silo is slow because there's just a lot to cover and a lot of ground to mine.
Yeah.
That's my one critique. I wish the show had felt a bit more free to do that.
Yeah.
To even like cut away from Mensa and the gang.
Right.
To maybe like a B plot happening somewhere else on a different planet.
Right.
You know?
Violate the canon a little bit. It's all right.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You know, and normally, I'm such a stickler for canon and I'm always like the original book is the holy text. Don't fuck with it. But I think it is appropriate to do that in some instances.
Yeah.
And I think with such a light original canon, like the first novella, you have a lot of freedom to play.
Totally.
I wish they had played more.
Yeah.
Is my only thought so far.
We kind of know or suspect that Murderbot's been around for a lot longer than we've known it. So let's do some flashback. Let's see some of what Murderbot's kind of past was like. And, we only get so much of that in the novella. So they have enough room to kind of play here.
Right.
So
even in the novella, Murderbot will mention like, my previous crew never would have da-da-da-da-da.
Right. Let's see that crew.
Let's see that. Let's flashback to a different crew and an older Murderbot.
Totally.
And that might even be a nice contrast to the current crew.
Exactly.
And create more empathy or more connection for the viewer for the current crew sort of thing.
Right.
So I wish there had been more of that. We are sort of religiously sticking to the text outside of the really lovely opening shot where we saw the factory.
Right.
That's my only critique so far. But again, I'm warming up to the show.
Totally.
I had a lot more fun in this episode.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that trend continues for 5, 6, 7, and beyond.
Well, time will tell.
Time will tell.
All
right, folks. Those are our brief thoughts on Murderbot episode 4. Good television. We're having a fun time.
Definitely.
We will be back next Friday, as promised, to talk about episode 5 of Murderbot.
That's right.
Until then, we hope to see you soon. On Sanctuary Moon.
I don't know why that really got me.